So you're watching right now two different chips. The top one, as you can see, a lot more wrists. The lower one, very little amount of wrists. And I want to explain what is important when you're playing these types of shots. Set of position, you can see, is very similar. Top one again, the wristy shot, so to say. They both went the same distance, but of course the flights look different. With the wrist, the ball went a lot higher. Now, a lot of people believe that to hit the ball higher, they need to open up their stance, they need to open everything up. Yeah, it can help, but generally it's more a case of what the club is doing to the ball than what your body is doing. I'm going to show this as the top one up here. I'm going to come to the top of the backswing, and clearly we can see that there's a lot of wrist set. It's actually about 85, but I want to concentrate on the pelvis and the rib cage. So the pelvis here is 31 degrees closed, that means it's turned away from the target, and the rib cage is 52. Now, if we do it with a shorter shot, well, I say shorter shot, less wrists, because again the ball's with the same distance, you'll see that there's a little bit less rib cage and pelvis rotation during the backswing. Now, going through, what we're going to see is, if you look at these boxes are over here, these are representative of different body parts. We have pelvis, rib cage, lead arm, and club. Now, I want you to keep an eye on see what moves when. And you'll see that starting, everything of course moves towards a target. And at a certain point now, you see things start to increase. So the rib cage is now up to 400, which is pretty similar to the club. So from these points, the club and the rib cage have been moving pretty similar. And then the club comes through. So we get to a total at the end of the pelvis moving at 199 degrees per second, and the rib cage moving at nearly around 400, and the club up to 800. Now, if we jump to the top one up here, what we're going to see is that there's a little bit of movement, but generally the acceleration of the club is much faster than the rest. As you can see here, the rib cage gets to around about 300 at its max, and even at this point the lead arm even starts to slow down, allowing the club to accelerate through. So the club has got up to 1,400 or 360. The pelvis never got as fast. The rib cage never got as fast. And this is evident, you can see there by the amount of movement made. So the upper one here with the wrists, actually the hips or the pelvis do not open as much. The rib cage doesn't open as much, it's only 8 degrees open, which is now allowing the club to, in effect, flick through and collect the ball. This one over here, the lower shot, is definitely a lot more body movement. The rib cage much more open, the hips are much more open, allowing the hands to be more passive. The finished position of both, we're going to see here, is of course representative. A lot more movement has gone through into the lower shot with 70 degrees open with the pelvis. So compared to the 61 over here. So if you're trying to hit the ball high, perhaps don't use too much body. This doesn't mean do not move at all. It just means that you want to allow the club head to do majority of the work, the majority of the angle helping, let's call it. Whilst a standard chip shot would probably be a little bit more with the hips and with the rib cage.